What is up, guys? It's your man Jay Will. So I've tuned up a team. Okay, take two. What is up, guys? It's your man Jay Will. So I've teamed up with Doogee to bring you some phones for review. Now, let me start off by answering the question that most of you guys will answer or ask throughout the video. No, it does not have LTE. This particular one does not have LTE for the US. This is the Doogee BL5000. So this phone is eclectic, though. It has some killer cameras on it. And the build quality is something that they're proud of. So as you can see on the back here, it has two 13 megapixel cameras, and then on the front it actually has an 8 megapixel camera. The camera settings for this are kind of eclectic. This phone does not shoot in 4K, but it does have really good zoom on it. Believe it or not, it has really good zoom, and I'll demo that here in the video. And then also, the quality of the footage is actually really solid. I mean, it is really good. So other than that, this is an Android phone. This is an Android phone that costs less than $200, less than 150 in some cases that I've seen, and it has really good hardware. The most eclectic part about this phone, I would say, though, is it has a 5,050 milliamp hour battery. So they brag about being able to charge other phones, in which you can actually do. Battery life on this thing is actually pretty solid. The build quality has these rounded curves around the entire device, and if you go to the Doogee website, you'll see them bragging about that, saying how the curves are actually superb, and it's actually a beautiful phone. This is kind of like a more affordable plastic version, I would say, of like a U11, because that's what this phone kind of resembles. If you didn't know, you would think this was a U11 at first glance, but it's actually the Doogee BL5000. So it has a 5.5-inch 1080p display, a fingerprint reader down here. Again, dual 13 megapixel cameras on the back with an 8 megapixel on the front. It does not have a removable battery. And it has a headphone jack up top, though. It has a USB 2.0, unfortunately, and a bottom firing speaker. So some things about this phone that are not really good to me is definitely that bottom firing speaker. It is one of the weakest and more hollow sounding speakers that I've ever come across. But some pluses to this phone is that it has lots of gestures, themes, and it's just a different setup for Android, which sometimes changes good. We need to see different things going on with Android, because Android is pretty much all the same until you start to get into skins from different OEMs. And they've done a good job. This is actually, I can have the phone set to shake when I want to change the theme. And you can see here, it's actually changing the theme to a different theme. I've downloaded probably about 7 or 8 themes, and it is actually this theme store is packed. You will be in there forever downloading themes. It is that many themes in this theme store. So it now changed to this really bright orange looking theme, and it's actually pretty good. The performance on this thing, again, it's running 7.0 Android. So the performance on here is actually pretty decent. No problems with it at all. Overall, it's just pretty much it's an Android phone, and it's got different hardware, because right now with Android, you're pretty much buying hardware, because, you know, Android, there's so many options for Android. Unlike iOS, there's only a few options for iOS, but there's tons of different versions of Android phones out on the market that you can choose from. So the downfalls I've found with this phone is probably just that weak speaker and no LTE for the US. So Doogee also has the Doogee Mix, and then the Doogee Mix 2. So look for those two phones on the channel here coming up pretty soon. But we're starting off this trilogy with the Doogee BL5000. I would tell a person who's looking to buy this, if you can deal with not having LTE in your house or throughout the US, it does have the 5 gigahertz band, so that's a huge plus. And it still works. It's just that if you try to search the internet or do something that you could normally knock out in a few seconds with a phone with LTE in the US, it's going to take some time. But other than that, picture mail works. Everything works on here. It's a solid phone. Battery is going to last you for at least, depending on the user. Heavy usage, I've been banging this out for 2 days, and I've got 78% left. I'm going on 2 days, and I've got 78% left. So that's actually pretty stellar. That's actually really good. Over a day, almost 2 days, and I've got 78% left. So yeah. And I am on Wi-Fi for the most of that, and until I leave the house, and it's on Edge. But you should get actually 3G with AT&T, 3G, 4G with AT&T and Cricket. So anything dealing with the AT&T network, you should be able to get 3G, 4G. But with T-Mobile, no go. It's Edge. So other than that, man, dual SIM, 5,050 milliamp hour battery, dual 13 megapixel cameras, 8 megapixel on the front. It's actually really solid. So Just want to give you a first look at the Doogee BL5000. Go ahead and keep watching and check out the camera footage from this device. I think you're going to be surprised when I show you that zoom. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care. Alright guys, this is a video sample from the Doogee BL5000. This camera shoots in 1080p at its peak. As you can see here, the clarity from the camera is actually pretty decent. I'm going to actually zoom here. That's 3 times, and that's 8 times. Kind of gets you some sense of how well it'll be if you zoom. Look at how clear that is. That is actually really good. This phone has dual 13 megapixel cameras on the rear, and this is really good, man. I can't believe how clear that zoom is. Get out. They did really good with that zoom, right? I've got other phones, and when you zoom in like that, it doesn't get that clear. This is an extended look at the rear camera. Let's go up. You can kind of see here. Wow, this is a really good camera, set of cameras, I should say, on the rear. Let's take a look at the front. Alright guys, here's the front camera for the Doogee BL5000. It's actually a pretty nice camera on the front and the rear. This is a 8 megapixel on the front, and the rear has 13 megapixels. So we're going to switch back to the rear and do some walking and see how the stabilization is, because this only has EIS. So let's take a look. Walk down the stairs here, go for my walk to my same spot. It's actually pretty good. Does really good. Not the smoothest, but hey, it'll do.